Good afternoon, you guys. So, I'm going to make this video on the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Essenes. This heretical, um, most ungodly sect of Jews that was supposed to be that's supposed to be the author and the keeper of the Dead Sea Scrolls, this particular Jewish sect. And I'm going to give you some information from the jewishlibrary.org, and I'm also just other little bits and pieces that I found also around concerning the Dead Sea Scrolls. What I'll do is I'll leave the video below, talking about the 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 Gnostic Gospels, which is considered to be the pseudepigrapha and the apocrypha, um, the deuterocanonical scriptures. Um, that video talks about Gnosticism, Christian Gnosticism, as if you could pick the two together, and esoteric Christianity. Okay, you guys, maybe I can brush on it a little bit here, but I'll leave that below. I've already did a video on that, and there's some things that I learned today and yesterday that just link back to that particular video. I'm going to leave part two below. There is a part one. Part one tells you who Gnostic Sophia is. This wisdom, the personification of wisdom. Uh, and who else? Worshipped as the wife of God and Jesus, and it all goes back to too far back. It all goes back to something not of God. So Gnostic Sophia, and is part one of that video. So if you want to watch it, it's in the archive. Maybe I'll just link both below. Um, I'm going to talk about the Pharisees because Jesus warned about the leaven of the Pharisees. Um, there is a trend of other gospels being preached, and I know I've only touched on it a little bit uh, in my last recent videos, but I've already covered a lot of this in some of these other videos, you guys. Um, I don't even know how I got to the book of Enoch. I don't even remember, but it's just a very blasphemous book. It talks about, and I don't want to get off subject. I want to go ahead and talk about the Pharisees and Sadducees and the Essenes, the supposed authors and keepers of these so-called lost books of the Bible. But the book of Enoch does teach the worshiping of angels, or the praying to of angels and them interceding on the behalf of men. And not only that, um, the angels supposedly told Noah to build the ark and not God himself. It's just so much that I didn't want to get into it, and that's why I left the videos below. Also, this Phanuel person who's supposed to be this Phanuel angel, his name is derived from Greek mythology. Um, it can be Phanuel, it can be Orphanel, um, and 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 Orphanol is derived from the Orphic egg of Greek mythology, the egg with the snake wrapped around it. You guys, this thing gets so deep and so on of God that I just, it would take a million videos just to talk about it, okay? And that's why I left the videos below. I can't argue, and we're not supposed to debate God's word. We're just supposed to uh, filter what people think is doctrine through his word. And if it didn't come out, this is the reason why it's not in the 66 books of the canon. And I think I give some other examples of some other extra biblical text in that second video, part 2. I'll leave it below. Okay, you guys? So Jesus warned about the leaven, which is basically the pride of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And also, I think it was Paul who said, if any other, even us, if we or any angel come preaching another doctrine, let him be accursed. We're not supposed to add to or take away. And this is the reason why these things are not in our canon. I'll give you some more reasons. I want to talk about the Pharisees and Sadducees and the Essenes, this heretical sect of Jews, supposedly, in this series, okay? And hopefully it'll just be one long video, relatively, okay? Just want to get through it. So, the Pharisees were considered basically to be like the blue-collar Jews. They had the belief that an oral law was given to Moses, which is the Torah, the written law, the Pentateuch, and they also believed in an oral law that, along with the written law, the Torah, the Pentateuch, and the oral law that they believed in is the Talmud, the blasphemous Talmud. So they believed that the oral law was coded and written 3 centuries later, and this oral law, which is the Talmud, is what the Pharisees believed God gave Moses and contained the knowledge of what the Torah meant and how it should be applied. That's what the Talmud is. The Pharisees taught the traditions of the elders, and they taught justification or salvation by the works of the law, if you will. They taught the commandments and the inventions of men. The Pharisees also believed in a Messiah who would herald a world peace. So their Messiah, they had in their mind their Messiah would be a king, a superhero, somebody of great wealth, somebody of high esteem. The word says that any man that hang upon the tree is accursed. Jesus was hung upon the tree and took our curse. He fulfilled every letter of the law. He took the curse upon him so that we could be redeemed from the curse, okay? And that was not their idea of a Messiah. And their Messiah would bring world peace. Jesus said a prophet is without honor, but only in his own country and among his kidfolk. I'm just paraphrasing. They adhered to the tenets of individual prayer and assembly in synagogues. That's the Pharisees. The Sadducees were the elitist of this of the two, if you will. They maintained their priestly caste, but they were liberal in their willingness to incorporate Hellenism. Hellenism is the Greek cultural tradition. It imposed unnecessary laws upon the people. It was hyper conservative. I did tell you guys there was a whole bunch of different laws: the oral law, the written law, the laws based on the Hellenistic view, the Greek culture traditions. So this is what the Sadducees incorporated and were willing to. They rejected, on the other hand, the oral law, the Talmud. Instead, they insisted on the literal interpretation of the written law. They didn't believe in the afterlife because it wasn't written in the Torah. They disappeared around the 70 AD after the destruction of the temple, and the Pharisees and the Sadducees together were the group that made up the Sanhedrin, which is the supreme Jewish court. Uh, if you don't remember, you guys, Paul said, "I'm a Pharisee. I'm a Pharisee. My mom and my dad was a Pharisee." He was being trained to be in the Sanhedrin, so he was a lawyer, if you will, being trained to be in a worker of being trained under those of the Sanhedrin to probably be in the Sanhedrin, if I'm not mistaken. Now on to the Essenes, this sect. They were they lived a monk life. They were monastic. They were, and the Essenes, the word in the Aramaic and Greek, and I believe the Hebrew, means pious, holiness, and piety. They believed the others had corrupted the city and the temple and moved out of Jerusalem. And they adopted strict dietary laws, and they remained celibate. There was a brotherhood and sisterhood. So I guess the monks and the nuns, if you will. I don't know if it's the ones that we're familiar with, but this is the type of lifestyle that they lived. They were believed to be the offspring of those who lived in Qumran near the Dead Sea, where the Dead Sea scrolls were discovered in the caves. Okay. In 1947, manuscripts describing the beliefs of this sect and events of time was discovered amongst the fragments of the earliest copies of the Old Testament. So I believe these are what people call the lost books of the Bible, and I already talked about that. So the Essenes considered themselves to be the guardians of divine teaching. They considered themselves to be separate people because of the illumination of their inner life and knowledge of the hidden mysteries of nature unknown to other men. The Pharisees, you got the Pharisees, like the blue collar Jews. You got the Sadducees, which were like the elitists, and then you got the Essenes, which in hierarchy they were the elite of the elite. They were what to say, the illumination of their inner life and knowledge. They considered themselves to be separate because the illumination of their inner life and knowledge of the hidden mysteries of nature unknown to other men. So these were above the elitist. They were a group of people at the center of all the other people, and they had passed selective tests to become a part of this sect. They considered themselves to be masters of wisdom, hierophants of ancient arts of mastery, supported in this effort by highly evolved beings. What highly evolved beings supported them in this effort in the mastery of wisdom in the ancient arts? What highly evolved beings? I think I'll get to that here in a minute. It's almost done, you guys. They studied all religions in order to extract scientific principles from them. They considered each religion to be a different stage of revelation. So they were tossed to and fro. They studied every religion, every doctrine, and simply extracted these things and apparently wrote these things in these supposed Dead Sea Scrolls ascribed to biblical authors, okay? Ascribed to, falsely ascribed to. They highly esteemed teaching of the ancient Chaldeans, Zoroaster, Hermes, or Hermes, however you pronounce it, the Greek god, the secret revelations of Moses, and the revelations of Enoch. And one of the masters of their own order had transmitted, and one of the masters of their own order that transmitted techniques similar to those of Buddhism. So they highly esteemed one of the masters of their own order that transmitted similar techniques of Buddhism, and the revelations of Enoch, and the secret revelations of Moses, and the Chaldeans, and the Herms, and the Greek gods, and the this. So anyway, next, they considered themselves to be possessors of all these revelations and wrote them down. They knew how to communicate with angelic beings and solve the question of the origin. They solved the question of the origin of evil on the earth, according to them. The Essenes brotherhood and sisterhood were the presence on earth, according to them, of the teaching of the sons and the daughters of God. Only the souls of the awakened could be initiated into the mysteries of the brotherhood and sisterhood. You guys, this is a type of esoteric Christianity, if you will, or Gnosticism, because they believe some other stuff. So let me go on. Everybody knew that the brothers and the sisters in the sisterhood and brotherhood wore white. I mentioned this in the video that I'm leaving below. They owned property in all the big cities. They even had a door in Jerusalem that bore their name. The name said the door of the Essenes. They did not view Jesus as Messiah, but a great teacher of righteousness, and they denied the resurrection of the body. So just like the Muslims, they see Jesus as a great prophet. They rely heavily on mysticism and occult revelation. They rely heavily on mysticism and occult revelation. They share similarities with all cults and all false religions. And like I said again, the Qumran, this is a sect that lived in the Qumran, and the Qumran caves are what supposed to have held or had these hidden Dead Sea Scrolls. And the Dead Sea Scrolls hold the Gnostic Gospels and, the Pseudepigrapha and the Apocrypha, okay, you guys? And even if they were included in the original Bible, they are not in there now because there are so many contradictions to all of those books. The first Maccabees contradicts the second Maccabees as far as timelines. All these books, and you'll see in the next video, are ascribed to the authors, or the names of who they say may be the authors of. And Paul himself took so much time to identify himself in the beginning of all his letters you know, and letting them know that it was him, Paul, a co-laborer, a co-follower, uh, the believer in Jesus Christ, Timothy, my son in the faith, this one, that one. He had to, he referenced a lot of people, people who he thought that they knew, and just to identify himself, because these same types of letters, the same Gnostics were writing fraudulently, ascribing letters in his name, just like it is with this supposed lost these supposed lost books of the Bibles. The theologians and the scholars went through them and determined that they were not canonical or inspired uh, writings of God. And according to this you can see why the Essenes, they studied every religion and considered every religion to have to give revelation, and they wrote things, and these things that they wrote were among the Dead Sea Scrolls. So I guess that answers the root of why we only have 66 books in the Bible, and the fact that Jesus said that we should not add to or take away from the doctrine. That's it, you guys. You can leave any comments below. I'll leave my second video from several months ago, going a little bit more in depth about the Gnostic Gospels, and because it's just resurfacing, and it's all over YouTube, and people who are call themselves Christians, I guess they're Gnostic. This is an example of Gnostic Christianity, which is it's no such thing. Talking about attaining all these different wisdoms that the Essenes extracted from different religions, all the different religions, and put them in these manuscripts that were found among the Old Testament. So you guys think about it, pray about it, watch the video that I'm going to leave below. It's an oldie, but it's a goodie. Okay, you guys. God bless y'all. I wanted to bring the information and just kind of put it all together so you can understand what I've been talking about here lately. Okay, false prophets are among us, and the Lord said that there would be. Okay, God bless y'all.